Gary Stearman here. Time for another update from Prophecy in the News. This one for Monday, and that happens to be the 12th of May. Time does fly, and it's flying faster than ever these days. So much is going on. Russ Briault is back with us, as promised, for another conversation extending further and further into the subject of the Shroud of Turin. Russ, good to have you back.
Gary, it's great to be back.
You know, the Shroud of Turin, it has been controversial, still is in some circles. There are people who say that it's some kind of a concoction, that is like maybe a medieval idol that was produced by painting or this or that. Well, you and I are far beyond that. We've been through all the research, through all of the photography, the careful study that have been done, studies done by the men of science. And we're so far past believing that the shroud may be fake that we may be jumping far ahead, because I think there still are people out there who think that the shroud may be fake. Give us some reasons why you believe that it's a true artifact.
Well, I think we have to keep this in this perspective, and that's this. Either the Shroud of Turin is the authentic burial shroud of Jesus, or it's not. And if it's not, then it must be the work of an artist. And if that's the case, then there must be some paint, ink, dye, pigmentation, stain. There must be some substances on the cloth to account for the image. The blood, is it just paint? Is it animal blood? Is it human blood? Is it blood from actual wounds? I mean, so this either or proposition is very important, because either it is or it isn't. Mm-hmm. Now. This is the most analyzed artifact in the world. In the late 1970s, a team of almost 40 American scientists have unprecedented access to it. 5 days, working in shifts, 122 hours round the clock. They have all kinds of gear: spectroscopy, X-radiography, infrared thermography, and microscopy. They do all these tests, and they come away and they say this: the shroud is not the work of an artist, and there are no artistic substances on the cloth to account for the image. There's not.
Now, let me stop you right quick, because I want you to focus on one thing. There is an image on the cloth, but it's only on the very, very, very top surface of the cloth. If you look at the front of the shroud, you see an image. You look at the back, it's not there.
Correct.
It doesn't go all the way through. So what made it?
Yeah, it's a purely superficial phenomenon. This is one of the most important attributes for people to understand, is that when you look at the shroud, the first thing you see is this pattern of 8 burns, because the shroud was in a fire in 1532. It was doused with water. You have a pattern of water stains. There's a whole pattern of blood stains from the actual wounds. And if you flip the cloth over, you'll see all that, but you won't see the image of the man. The image appears on the top 1 to 2 microfibers of the inside of the cloth that was facing the body. And in other words, so when I say 1 to 2 microfibers, bear in mind that each individual thread is made up of about 200 microfibers. So this cloth literally affects less than 1% of a single thread.
Now, I'm holding an image of the face that's on the shroud, and I think you can see it pretty well. And no doubt you've seen this before. It has blood stains around the top of the head, reminiscent of the crown of thorns, piercing the scalp and producing blood flow. Now, is that real blood on the shroud?
It is real blood. It is AB blood type. And in 1995, we determined that it has a human male DNA, and it is called the it is called the exudate of actual wounds. What we see on the cloth is not whole blood. It's not blood that was painted on where it's supposed to go. We see blood components. We see bile, bilirubin, serum albumin, hemoglobin, but we do not. In fact, we don't see any red blood cells. Where are the red blood cells? Well, they're on the body forming the clot. The blood chemistry, what we see on the shroud, is the exudate of wounds. In fact, there's a very high bilirubin content. Bilirubin is an enzyme that would have been released during conditions of severe stress. So the blood chemistry is very, very intriguing.
So if you were of such a mind as to make a fake image on a shroud, you would have to paint it with exudate from a wound.
Yes.
You'd have to obtain that sort of blood, that's a special fraction of the blood, and paint it on there while it was still fresh, and still manage to do a good job making it look authentic. All
Right.
of this is utterly impossible.
And there's no image under the blood either, which tells you that the whole order of events is that the blood was on the cloth first, then came the image. Now, when did the image get there? I don't know. Maybe 3 days later. I don't
Yes.
know. Except later. And now that's very intriguing because there's been several attempts by people to show how some alleged medieval artist painted the image, and they're most of them are pretty horrible attempts, but they all make the same mistake. They craft their image and they paint the blood where it's supposed to go. No. Blood first, then image. You do that, and you've accomplished something.
Yes, you have. And on it goes. We talked, I think, in our last visit about the fact that they've recently created a laser burst
Yes.
that somewhat duplicates the image on the shroud. But of
Same
course, they
depth
haven't
and
created-
coloration. Yep.
They didn't create an image. They just created scorching, if you will. But to put the image or an image on cloth in the same way that's on the shroud, it would have to be a partial X-ray
Yep.
showing not only the skin but some of the structure beneath the skin. It would also have to have the information coded into it to reproduce a 3D image, which the shroud has.
Right.
And we don't even understand that process.
No, we don't. We don't.
But in our rudimentary way of viewing an image, we now have the technology to know that at least the 3D image quality is there. Probably there's a lot more there than we can even see right now.
Yeah.
But each advance in our technology allows us to authenticate the shroud even more. Nothing so far has said it's a fake, right?
Because even now we can take the history back to at least to the 6th century, and also last year coming out of Padua University, researchers showed that the shroud has a date range of 280 BC to 220 AD, first century, right in the middle.
Wow. I have here a graphic created by a lady who just mailed it to us, and it's a picture of the shroud alongside a cash register receipt, and right across the top it says bought, purchased, redeemed, and ransomed. In other words, you're presenting the shroud as
A proof of
a
purchase.
receipt.
A receipt, a proof of purchase. Bought, purchase, redeem, ransom are all words of transaction. A payment has been made on our behalf. What do you get when you go to a store? From the cashier always gives you what? A receipt. It's a proof of purchase. And shout out to Karen Jacks in Kansas who sent that to me. Thank you very much.
and I hope she's watching. The idea of of our salvation being paid for in full reflects what Jesus said on the cross. It is finished, tetelestai, paid in full. That idea translates easily into a document, that is a documentary evidence that supports the Bible narrative.
Yeah.
It does not contradict the Bible narrative.
Not at all.
And furthermore, it carries us forward into the rapture
because not only is it a historical document of a historical event, it is a proof of purchase, a receipt documenting the price that was paid, but it's also a promissory note documenting about a promise of a future event. Because whatever happened to Jesus in the tomb is exactly what's going to happen to us at some point in the future.
Right.
And that's what 1 Corinthians 15 is all about. Behold, I show you a mystery. We will not all sleep. We will all be changed. How? In a flash, in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye. And Paul isn't even talking about Jesus there. He's talking about you and me.
Right.
And so the message of the shroud really is a future message saying, can you believe in the unbelievable? Absolutely. And the shroud stands as a testimony that these things are true.
Well, as you can see on your screen, we have an offer called the Shroud of Turin Prophecy Package, consisting of 4 DVDs produced by Russ Briault. Two of them speak of the subjects that we're talking about today, only in much, much greater depth. One is called What If? And it has to do with the actual shroud itself. That is the provenance of the shroud. We have here another, let's see if I can find the right one, another DVD, CSI Jerusalem. People have looked and looked and looked long and hard at this artifact. They've tried to debunk it, and they haven't succeeded. They tried really hard, didn't they?
Sure have.
And we have 2 other presentations made by Russ at the Orlando Prophecy Conference. All 4 DVDs, $49.95 plus shipping and handling, plus some bonus sheets. The face image that I just showed you, a sheet here. Actually, it's 4 pages. Speaking of the Shroud of Turin, the most analyzed artifact in the world. It is key points that you need to know, and of course, this particular sheet shows the shroud in full length, and the title, "The Shroud of Turin." It gives all the vital statistics of the shroud. So you've got everything you need in this package to study and become an expert. And why should you become an expert on the shroud? Well, Russ, that's what you are, and what you really do with this is that you use it to augment the gospel of the Lord Jesus Christ.
Absolutely. I tell people this, and anyone can do this, is you explore the mystery and counter the message. The message of the shroud is identical to the gospel. There is no difference, because I would be in agreement that we can't prove the shroud absolutely to be the bronze shroud of Jesus. We don't have the DNA of Jesus to match it up. It most likely is authentic, right? But here's the deal. But here's the thing. Explore the mystery, encounter the message. Yeah. The message is identical to the gospel. There's no difference at all.
Russ Briault, thanks for being with us on Prophecy in the News.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Always a pleasure to talk to Russ, and to the rest of you, study. You might be amazed at what you'll learn about the Shroud of Turin. And by the way, he's coming soon. The rapture can't be far away, wouldn't you say? So keep looking up, everybody.